Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. And more importantly, happy Release Party Thursday. I'm Olivia, and as always, I'm so excited to be here hosting this release party with y'all. If you're new here, haven't been to one of these release parties, it is one of my favorite times of the month. Start of the month, we always put out a VS Code release. And then we have some of the engineers and PMs come on to our live streams to share about what they worked on. It's a really great chance to actually be able to interact with the engineer. So make sure that you are putting all your questions in the chat. I'll be making sure to check those, ask them to our guests today. So that way you can get all your questions answered. I'm extra excited too, because we have a few guests today who either haven't been on in a while or it's their first time. So it's a great chance to kind of see new faces that maybe you haven't had the chance to interact with before. So definitely take the chance to say hi in the chat. I'm just going through the messages. Dee's Computer World, you know I'm always so excited to see you here. I love your love for VS Code. Thank you so much for always being a dedicated user and a dedicated watcher of our streams. Hello from Malaysia. Hello, Rohit. I hope I pronounced that right. Thank you so much for joining. I'm not sure what time it is there, but thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here with us. Lots of highs from the chat. Let me know where y'all are watching from. So that way we can kind of get the energy kicked off. But as y'all are doing that and posting your comments in the chat, how we usually like to kick these off is to do a quick thank you to our contributors. All right. So at the bottom of all of our release notes, we always have a thank you section. And that's because VS Code is an open source project. So while we do have an amazing engineering team, we also have a lot of great outside contributors as well. So I like to kind of just always take the chance to scroll through these notes. There are always a lot of people in them, so I can never one by one go ahead and call everyone out. But I wanted to take the chance to scroll through, say thank you. If you're watching and you're on this list, we really appreciate it. Anyone who's contributed to the repos, to issues, anything like that. VS Code wouldn't be what it is without you. I know I speak on behalf of the entire VS Code team when I say thank you so much for your contributions. All right, so let's see. Let's get a couple more chats and then we'll kick things off. Oh, Doug's in the chat. Hi from New York City. Hey, Doug. If y'all don't know who Doug is, he's been on our live streams before. He actually has another live stream next week. So definitely tune into that because it's always a fun time. Hello from Edinburgh. I feel like I always I pronounce that too Americanized. So hopefully I did it justice. Love to VS Code. I love that. Okay. Without further ado, let's get to why we're all here and kick off our release party with our first guest, Izzy. Hey, Izzy.
Hey, Olivia.
How are you doing?
Thank you very much for having me. I'm doing great. So I'm a PM on the team. Hello, everybody on this stream. Very nice to be here again.
Yes, I mean, we love PMs too. Engineers, PMs, all part of the VS Code ecosystem. All welcome here.
That's good to know. Good to know.
Very valuable parts of the team too. And I know people always love chatting with you too, Izzy. So I don't think it's going to be too much of a disappointment.
Cool. Thank you, Olivia. So go ahead.
Yeah, what do you have to show for us today?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a bit about profiles. So my friend Sandeep and me have been working on profiles for a couple of milestones now. And in the latest release, we added some updates. But I first wanted to just do a quick refresh on what profiles are. Maybe some of our audience didn't try them. So I'll just quickly just show that. So in our manage gear here, we have a profiles menu. I know it might be maybe a bit small on the stream. But here is the list of my profiles. And currently I have my default profile, which has my default extensions, my default settings, but I can easily change to my doc writer profile, which is scoped, which is set up for doc writing, which has all the extensions I need when I write our release notes, for example, all the markdown goodness. And we got feedback from users that profiles are a great way to manage, for example, your extensions. If you have too many extensions and you're not using them for every project, you can, for example, have a Python profile, you have a JavaScript profile, and they switch automatically as you open different workspaces. So, Olivia, that's a short refresh on profiles. And I just wanted to show what we have new here regarding profiles. So we wanted to simplify and add some capabilities for profiles based on what we heard from our users. So one thing, so now I went in the create profile flow, and one thing which we added, which we think is now more trivial, is if you want to copy content from an already existing profile, or we provide built-in some profile templates that can help you easily start. So for example, let's say that I want to create a Python profile, but I don't really want to manually, choose all the extensions, choose the settings. I can say, hey, copy from the default Python profile, which actually our friends from the Python extension, created for us. And it has the, starting extensions, which we recommend for Python, start settings. And I can just put the name of my profile. Let's call it, I don't know, Isidor's Python. And another thing which we added, this milestone, which we heard a lot of feedback about, is maybe some of these things which are a part of profile, like settings, keyboard shortcuts, maybe some of them I really want to share across different profiles. So maybe I want to have keyboard shortcuts which are the same across all my profiles, because it's hard for my brain to change what I know about keyboard shortcuts based on the profile. So maybe I want to always use the same. And now we allow that. So you can basically uncheck what you want to share from the default profile. So basically in this way, I'm creating a new Python profile, and I will take the keyboard shortcuts from my default profile. So we can go ahead and we can create that. That might take a bit because we're applying the extensions from this default profile. We're downloading them, we're applying the settings, and soon they should be here. It might take a moment or
yeah. So as that's loading, I actually have a question on that.
Yep,
you mentioned it'll basically pull from that default profile. So does that mean, for example, if the keyboard shortcuts, if I then am in my default profile and I change one of my keyboard shortcuts, will that automatically get applied to any other profiles I basically branched off of that? Or do I need to do like any
Correct.
sort of, okay, cool.
Correct. It will be just automatic. It's shared from the default profile. And
that's awesome.
We felt like this is a simple way to achieve something our users have been very vocal about.
Yeah, I think we've had a lot of questions about that. Anytime we talk about profiles, people are always like, when is this feature going to come? So that's awesome. You can basically specify, okay, yes, just keep it the same as the default. As the default updates, it will just sync with that and we'll be good to go. Don't have to think about it again.
Exactly. And there's, so now we got our Python profile applied here, and I just wanted to show two more things which we added, which is sort of like a cherry on top. For example, maybe you really like autosave like I do. One of my favorite settings in VS Code, that's the first thing I always set in VS Code. You can basically go to the menu and you can say, hey, I want this setting to be applied for all profiles. So no matter what profile I create, I really want this setting to be there. And similarly, maybe like me, you're using Docker, and then you can also do the same. You can say, hey, make sure to apply this extension to all the profiles, no matter what profile is there. So we thought that this also will enable some scenarios we heard users are requesting.
Awesome. And yeah, just to kind of reiterate what you just did, because I think sometimes those setting gears are a little small. Yep. So you basically hit the setting gear, go down, excuse me, into the menu, and then there's just an apply setting to all profiles, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, or it's just there in the settings UI, and in the extensions view, it's the context menu, which has a couple of actions, and one of the actions is apply extension to all profiles, which has a checkbox.
Awesome. So you can then uncheck that too, and it would revert that setting or that. Okay.
Yeah, then it will no longer be applied across different profiles. It will just be where you explicitly set it to be a part of your profile.
Okay, cool. So that won't like accidentally like take it out of something else that already did have it. It would.
Correct.
Okay, cool. That's good to know.
Correct. And so try it out. Let us know what you think. Feedback is very much appreciated. As always, you can leave comments in the stream, or you can always come to our GitHub repository and you can just open issues with feedback, and we're very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. We have one comment says profiles sound awesome. I didn't know about them. Profiles are honestly like one of my favorite things. I think we released them in stable, January or February, sometime earlier this year.
Yes.
And ever since, I use them all the time. I know Izzy kind of shared some of his use cases. I make a lot of content, obviously. So I have like my own demo one that's kind of more bare bones and has my nice zoom. So that way, when I share my screen, it's, all nice for my demos and my content creation. But it's really, really great if you're working across different projects, across different work streams, different scenarios, like if you have both work and home and school or anything like that. It's really awesome. So like Izzy said, definitely try them out and leave any feedback. You can already see it's been about 6 months since this feature has been in stable. And every month there's new changes. There's always feedback coming in that the team is always being actionable about.
Yeah, we are trying to perfect it.
Yeah.
And for users who didn't try it out yet, we have docs on our VS Code page. So you can just, Google VS Code profile docs, and you'll find it all detailed with explanations if you're starting for the first time and if you have questions.
Yep, and we'll make sure to post that link in the video description if you're watching back. We do have just a couple questions that came in. One question is, will using custom profiles make VS Code launch faster?
Good question. Well, it depends. In some cases, it can. So those cases are maybe in your default profile, you have a lot of extensions which are star activated. So what does that mean? Extensions can choose when they want to activate. And some extensions, for example, choose to be star activated. That means as soon as VS Code starts, activate it. So that's like not good practice, but still some extensions do it. Maybe it's a good choice for them. And maybe if you have a lot of these star activated extensions, your startup can deteriorate, your startup time. So then maybe if you create another profile which has less extensions, which really has the extensions that you need for that workflow, then that can speed up your startup.
Nice. Yeah, kind of have like a cleaner setup essentially than just like however many extensions you might have for your different workflows. Cool.
Exactly.
Okay, and then one more question that we had is, does this mean that we can set the extension there and don't have to set it up in the dev container JSON? So maybe just like if you want to do a quick overview of the difference between profiles and dev containers, because they can have similar use cases for why you'd use each.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So as a dev container JSON, I look at it more like a thing that you want to share with your team, something which you will put in the workspace. And then when that workspace is started in Docker in a dev container, everybody has like a similar setup. And profiles, we look at something which is more opinionated, something which is more personal for you. Maybe it has the themes you like, the settings which you like, something which is more personal. And even though we allow sharing profiles, you can also do that. We don't see profiles being, how do I say it, so closely connected to the workspace. So that's sort of the philosophical difference between the two. So if you want that anybody who starts your workspace in a Docker container that has a set of settings, we still recommend that you set them in your dev container JSON file, but profiles are something which sort of are orthogonal to that, and that is a more personalized take.
Okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. So kind of any extensions you need to actually run the project, if you're using a dev container, that would go in your dev container JSON. So that way, when your team pulls down the repo, you can run it, everything will be good. But, if you're someone who just really likes a certain theme or you like, a certain formatter or something like that, that's kind of where you'd go into the profile territory.
Correct.
Cool. Good to know. All right, looks like that's all the questions we had. Is there anything else you want to show us, Izzy?
No, that's everything I had for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
People love PMs. Everyone was so welcoming.
Thanks. Well, what a pleasant surprise.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Izzy. I'm sure we'll have you back on at some point as well. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Olivia. Have a great day.
All right. And that's going to bring us to our next guest, Aaron. Hey, Aaron.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And you're going to be doing notebooks, which is people always get pretty excited about that in the chat. I feel like we always have. So if you're in the chat and you use Jupyter Notebooks, definitely let us know. And this is the demo for you.
Right.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah. Do you want to do an overview of what you'll be showing today and we can get your screen up?
Sure. So yeah, notebooks. Notebooks are built into Visual Studio Code. This is the standard notebook view where it's, if you know notebooks, there's code cells and then there's the output right after it, and you can run the code cells right in here. It's just kind of this way of formatting your Python code or other languages that are supported by notebooks. But the first demo I wanted to go over was actually for something we call the interactive window, where it's kind of a hybrid between notebooks and Python files. So here's just an ordinary Python file, except I have these markers in here to have them as code cells. And this has been around for a while, but I just wanted to make sure people were familiar with it. So you can break up your Python file the same way that you'd break up a notebook, except that when you run the cell, it gets put over to this interactive window over here. So you can kind of just keep track of what's been run over time and have it go on. And this, the interactive window also has this input box down here where you can just input your own code and run it directly. So it's this strange hybrid, and for a while we were just kind of treating it as a kind of a debugging window where if you close it, it would just go away and we'd just toss away everything that was in there. But we wanted a way to preserve the work that you might have if you have something in here that's important to you. So what we recently changed was now if you reload your window and you have an interactive window open, it'll actually come back. And then it loads a little bit slower because it's a notebook, but once it comes back, it should have all the work in there and your history. It's also screen sharing, so it'll take a little longer.
Yeah. No, but this is super helpful. I think even just showing this interactive view, because I think a lot of people don't know about this. So is it basically like if you just have a Python file and you have those interactive characters will it automatically show the run cell, run above, debug cell?
Yeah, the Jupyter extension will scan through, look for these little code cell markers, and then just inserts the code cells or the code lines above them. So you can also use these or just the standard Jupyter hotkeys, Control Enter or Shift Enter to run them.
Cool, that's so handy.
So yeah, and as you see, this guy came back. VS Code itself was hosting the kernel, which is what's running the code. So now the kernel was restarted as well. So we don't have one connected. But if I just add another cell here, it'll just reconnect to the same kernel.
Oh, cool. So as soon as you basically like prompt it to start running something again, that kernel gets restored as well.
Well, the same kernel didn't get restored because it's within VS Code. If I wanted to actually keep the same kernel up and running, we have to use another trick where we use, this is called a live kernel session, where the kernel was started externally to VS Code in its own Jupyter notebook or a Jupyter server. So this is being run. It was started by a file called untiled1, and this kernel is, its lifetime is outside of VS Code basically. So if I were to run something in here, store a variable, and then reload VS Code, I could reconnect to the same live kernel, and that would come back again.
Ah, okay, cool. Okay, so if you have kind of that like external kernel, for lack of a better word,
Right.
then you can go ahead and have this where it would restore that and kind of keep that history.
Yep.
Cool.
That's right.
Awesome. We do have one question from Doug asking if this works with Polyglot Notebooks too.
I know .NET Interactive, or it's actually now called the Polyglot extension, has been working with the interactive window. Jupyter does not currently have multi-language support in the interactive window, but I am actually unfamiliar with how far they got with their interactive window implementation. But
Okay.
I mean, in the future, I hope to include more languages in here, just not at the moment.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, Doug, try that out. Let us know where it's at with Polyglot Notebooks. I know you're a big Polyglot Notebook user. Cool. And then we also have an obligatory, what theme are you using right now?
This is the bearded theme, Goldie Raya. Yeah.
Ooh, cool. I don't think I've seen this theme. I like it.
I like the poppiness of the gold and the tabs.
Yeah, that's awesome. Even like just like, yeah, all the like the badges and everything. It's like nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's all the questions on this demo specifically. Was there anything else you want to show with the interactive window?
Not with interactive window, but there is, so so long running cells are kind of a big thing, especially with LLMs, like hours long running code. And actually I need to switch this kernel real quick.
Oh, so while you're doing that, we actually have Bearded Bear in here.
Nice.
Say, hi all, it's my theme.
I'm a fan of your themes. All right. So we have long running cells, and long running in that people might leave leave their computer alone. It'll go to sleep. They'll lose the connection, and then that means that the kernel is gone, or the connection is gone. They might lose their session. And that's bad when you're working with building up these big language models, or whatever ML you're doing. You want to be able to come back to your current session. So my coworker Don implemented this thing where if you were running something, and this is a remote kernel, remote kernel again, which means that VS Code didn't start it itself.
Okay.
And I think I'll need to connect to it real quick. The idea is once it starts, it'll start running and take a while. So this is now going, and it's going to take a while to run. And let's see if I can reload the window here. And when it comes back, go back to that cell. See, right, we left when it was at 10%.
Cool.
Now it's going to try to reconnect.
So that's specifically when you do the reload window command, right?
Well, this is, I mean, it's intended for any time that the connection gets disrupted,
okay, cool.
or it closes down or anything like that. Well, it might have finished while it was gone. In that case, it's not going to update. Oh, there it goes. 92%. Just barely made it. Yep. And so it reconnected the kernel and was able to update the output where it was after that.
That's so handy, because I know that's like such a heartbreaking moment when you're like, you walk away and then you come back, you're like, no, what happened? Like, I've been waiting for this for hours. Or like you leave it in the background and then you look and you're like, oh, it's got to be done by now. And you're like, oh, it was interrupted.
So it can be pretty frustrating to have something that runs for hours and now you lost your session, so you have to start it all over again.
Right.
Yeah. So this makes that now possible.
Cool.
Okay, and then one other demo I wanted to show was the fact that we've been working a lot with accessibility features in notebooks, trying to improve the usability for sightless developers. And one thing we added a while ago was being able to just focus to the output. So I don't know if you can see the color shift there, but now I'm focused on the output here, and it's also just control down to get to it. But this would mean that a screen reader would just read this entire thing. So there's no way to focus on, well, you can kind of go through line by line, but it's not as useful as, say, being able to just scan through text. So what we added more recently was if you go down to the output and press Alt F2, which is the standard way of opening this accessibility view, it just opens it up, pops it open in a new text editor. So you can kind of scroll through yourself and get a lot more control about what you're reading.
That's awesome. Yeah, to like really have that full, instead of just like this giant block that's kind of like not the regular screen reader experience. Like this really makes it a cohesive experience across everywhere in the editor. That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
And does that work for all output types? Like could like
well,
that was like a text output. Could we do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's an example of an image right here. We're obviously not going to be able to put an image in a text output, but there are for this specific output right here, it has its own. It has an alternate text basically for that image, and you'll just see that the output here was a figure with, and it'll describe it as Jupyter does. I mean, so Jupyter provided this output for us, and we'll put it in there. There's also, and there's more output types than just that. For example, HTML, and right now we're only using the text of the accessibility view. Like we're not putting any higher fidelity language support, or at least with notebooks, we're not yet. That might come soon, but right now, so for example, this is the HTML output, and if I open this up, it's just going to give me the raw HTML, which isn't as useful. I mean, an actual HTML table would be much more accessible. But so if I switch it to text plain, and now that's the output that we get, we'll actually get that output.
So kind of that workaround if just raw HTML is not preferred.
Right, but I mean, we're also hoping to be able to support at least Markdown, and possibly HTML would be nice to be able to put in there. But yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I'm so glad you showed this. I think last month we had Megan on to talk about other accessibility updates with VS Code. Right. So I love anytime we get a chance to spotlight that, because it really does show just everyone on the team, no matter which part of the product you're working on. It's always kind of front of mind. So I love seeing that and kind of hearing we know that maybe this isn't quite where it could be. We're thinking about other ways we can do it. So if anyone does use these features, definitely give us feedback. Let us know how it can be better, so that your experience is as seamless as possible.
Yeah, the feedback has been great. And yeah, it's really important to hear how people are using it.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Cool. All right, Aaron, is there anything else that you wanted to show?
Oh, nope, that was it for me.
Okay, cool. Well, we have a couple of just excitement in here. Doug says, cool, so many things to look into. Ahmad says, so we could copy the HTML. Cool. So that's kind of another way you can think of how you could use that, is convert it from, get that reader and get the actual raw HTML there.
That's a good point, yeah. The
cool.
Accessibility features are often helpful for other kinds of, workarounds. And
exactly, yeah. I feel like that's such a big pull of it too, is that, some people rely on it because they're used screen readers. Other people, it helps just because it's their preference, or it helps because it lets out that HTML code. So yeah, definitely a good call out there.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much, Aaron. I'm sure we'll have you on again in the future. It was great kind of having you here and getting to see your theme, getting to see all your work you've done, and the rest of the team has done as well. It's really great.
Sure. All right. Thanks.
Thanks. Have a good one. All right, so that's going to bring us to our final demo with Alex. Hey, Alex.
Hi, Olivia. Thanks for inviting me on.
Of course. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Is this your first time on the release party, or at least in a while, I think, right?
I think it's my first time. Maybe I watched the first one, but I think this is my first time presenting.
Cool. Well, we are so happy to have you here. We love anytime we can have new faces here. If y'all are, active in any of our repos, you've definitely seen Alex's name floating around. She's an amazing engineer on the team. So I won't hype you up too much, because I'll let you go ahead and talk about what you work on, so that way you can have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I mostly these days work on the GitHub pull request and issues extension, but you've also seen me in the VS Code repo. I work on tree views and forwarded ports and the simple file picker. And probably a few other little things too. But today I want to show you the GitHub pull request and issues extension, and specifically the work we've done this last iteration on updating the create view with the help of our designer, Hilke. And I thought the best way, what better way to show off the create view than to create a pull request to the pull request extensions repo to fix a bug in the create view. So hopefully it's a little meta, but hopefully it doesn't get confusing.
No, that's so great, because we always get people who are also like, oh, like, do the VS Code engineers use VS Code to work on VS Code? And like, we're about to see this in action. I love this.
Oh yeah. So I have open here my fork of the pull request extension repository. Normally I work in the Microsoft repository, but for the purposes of this, we will do it in my fork. I have a topic branch checked out that I've been working on my change in. So let's take a look at the create view. So this is the create pull request view. If you've seen it before in the extension, it looks a bit different now. We've simplified it a lot, made it less busy, and we've managed to add more features as well. So you can change the base that you want to merge into, and this includes, you can change the repository here. You can change the merge. So this is just my topic branch. You can change the title, you can change the description. Here we have the files changed in the PR, or the PR to be, and you can view the diff, and this is new down here, the commits view.
Oh.
You can view each commit and the changes for that commit before you've created the PR here. All right. At the top, we also have a way for you to add assignees. Sorry, these hovers are a bit small. Add reviewers, add labels, and add a milestone. Now, the bug that we have right now is in one of the new features of this view. As part of our updates, we now try to guess the best possible base branch for your PR. If you're in a fork, the best possible base branch for your PR is probably the upstream, not your fork. And as you can see, we have incorrectly guessed that you want to have your base be the main branch of the fork. So let's change this to be the upstream main. Here we go. And I've already prepared the change here, so we're not going to watch me write code. But this is the fix. This is the fix to correctly guess that when you're on a fork, we should use the upstream main, not your fork's main. So fix. All right. And now that I have selected the base branch, the base repository branch, let's add myself as an assignee here, because I am going to end up being assigned to it, and we can add labels. And then
That's cool. So you can really do like everything you would do in the browser. Like, I think a lot of people end up just going into, GitHub in the browser and doing this. You can do all the assignments, you can label it, you can associate it with iterations or milestones. That's awesome.
Absolutely right. Yeah, before you used to have to do all this after creating it, but with these new actions at the top, we can do it all before creation here. Now, I think this is probably like the biggest selling point of creating your PRs from within the extension instead of going to .com. But it's this create plus auto squash. So you can create a draft. You can then also create and auto merge using the merge method of your choice, depending on what the repository allows. But with one click, you can create and enable auto merge with squash, which is definitely what I want to do here. So let's create an auto squash. So now once this PR is created, we'll take a look at all the properties that were set on it.
Cool. And we have a mod in the comments saying, I used to create PR from the web interface, but I think this is about to change now. So
awesome.
Yeah, you've already got one convert here.
Yeah, I really like the way VS Code does diffs, viewing of diffs. So if I can always view my diffs, including viewing diffs for PRs from within VS Code, that is definitely my preference. Okay, so you can see we have our PR created. It correctly assigned me, got our labels, got our milestone. And if you scroll down, we can see that auto merge was checked with the method that we selected. And that is the new create view.
That's so cool. Lasindu also said, could we add labels before? It sounds like you couldn't during the creation. So they said, this is awesome. So definitely a lot of helpful features here. And I mean, I was so excited when you agreed to come on this release party too, just because I think a lot of people don't know about this extension. We'll have people in live streams just be like, oh, like, I really wish VS Code would let you review PRs. And it's like, wait, you can. So it's really great to kind of get you on here to show off these new features and just make more people aware.
Yeah, you can definitely add labels. If you saw me fail to add a label, like you saw me add it twice, that's because I failed at keyboard shortcuts for a second. It was a multi-select quick pick, and you have to hit space, not enter, to select the option.
Well, you're so seamless. I didn't even notice.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Cool. All right. And would this be supported for GitHub Enterprise too?
Yeah. So we support GitHub Enterprise, all of the currently supported versions that GitHub has not deprecated yet. We don't self-host on GitHub Enterprise, so you may encounter more issues there than you would with using it with github.com. However, it is supported. You file an issue, I will fix it, with the exception of deprecated versions and features that don't exist in older versions. So like auto merge, I believe, is not supported in the oldest version of GitHub Enterprise that we support. So that just simply doesn't exist there.
Okay, cool. Good to know. This is awesome. Is there anything else you want to show with this create view or just with the extension in general?
Yeah, I'll show a little bit of reviewing a PR since we're here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just go to this. So a couple features we've added in the last year, even the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 months. We have quick diffs now. So these bars, these colored bars that you see, the green and the kind of mustard color in my theme. These are quick diffs that you might be familiar with from using SCM, using Git as your source control with VS Code. But now we also show them for the pull request extension if you enable it. So you can just do a really quick inline view of what changed on this line without having to go to a full diff of the file.
Oh, cool.
And then for reviewing changes, let's see. Let's say I'm reviewing this PR from someone else and it's not mine. This metadata should be const not let. So I can just add a comment here. And since Aaron presented already, I'm gonna show off this feature by flagging him.
Oh, nice.
We also have completion items or users like inline completion suggestions for at mentions. So if you're typing in a comment like this, or even in a code comment, you can type at and get suggestions for users in the repository that you might want to mention. So let's just pick on Aaron. And then if I'm actually suggesting a concrete code change, another thing we added recently, this should look familiar to github.com users because this uses the same mechanism that they use. We can make a suggestion, which will put this suggestion block in and populate it with the code from that line. And I can just change this and say, yeah, that should be const. Let's add this comment. And take a second, but we'll get some better rendering here now.
Nice.
We get Aaron's name is now linked. And we have the suggestion. And if you want to apply the suggestion, it doesn't really make sense since I'm reviewing my own PR, but if you imagine that I'm reviewing someone else's, we can apply the suggestion with this gift. So if you watch this let here, it'll change to const. And then you can see we have the change in source control. So if someone makes a bunch of suggestions, you can accept all their suggestions and then commit them in one commit with Git.
Awesome. So One question that I just kind of had in general about like how this works, I know we've had a lot of updates like for the VS Code diff editor in general. Does the GitHub pull requests and issues extension like build off of the VS Code diff algorithm, or do you have kind of your own? Are you plugging into something else to kind of get like those quick diffs and everything?
This is all using VS Code's built-in diffing.
Cool, that's awesome.
Yeah, for VS Code diffs, you just provide a base and changed, and VS Code will do the diffing from there.
Awesome. And this is related. So obviously you're showing GitHub pull requests. Francois is asking, will it be possible to do PRs like this with Azure DevOps instead of GitHub?
That's a great question. I wish I had a better answer for you, but because this really heavily depends on GitHub's API, we can't just swap this out for using Azure DevOps. It's something we might look into in the future, refactoring everything so that we could kind of plug and play and use different providers here. But right now, you can't use this extension for Azure DevOps. I know someone has forked this extension and tried to replace some of the functionality with Azure DevOps. I'm not sure how well it works, but someone in the community has tried it.
Awesome. That's really good to know, because I'm sure there's probably a couple other people, a couple other ADO users wondering that. So yeah, great to kind of hear your perspective, directly from the team. Some more love. Doug says, VS Code is just a mind-blowing environment. I've seen a ton of IDEs over the decades. So yeah, I think that this was really great just to see, other functionality, that how integrated it really is into VS Code. Cool. All right. Is there anything else you want to show us, Alex?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Cool. Of course. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so happy we got to have you on the release party. I know you've blown a few minds at least during this demo. So I'm sure we'll have you back on in the future. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So Alex was our last demo. That means we will be wrapping up our release party. For everyone watching, thank you so much for joining. To all of our contributors, thank you to the VS Code team, who's absolutely amazing, works very hard, takes all your feedback. Thank you for all the work you do. Thank you to our guests today. Before you go, just want to make a couple of quick plugs. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We post long form videos about a bunch of different VS Code related topics. We also stream every Thursday. So once a month, it's going to be this release party, but the other Thursdays, it's going to be different topics, like Doug next week will be on next week. So make sure to tune into that. We also post YouTube shorts. So for example, we have a monthly release highlight short that we post every month. So you can check that out now just to see a couple of the other highlights from the release. And those shorts, we actually also cross-post on our TikTok channel. So make sure to subscribe to our TikTok channel so that you can see all of our shorts, tips, tricks. If you're on that platform, it's a great way to interact with us, give us feedback. So as always, thank you all so much for joining. It's always my pleasure to be here. I'm so happy that y'all get a chance to interact with the VS Code team, and we'll see you next time.